in what happened to Justin Baldoni. I mean, she was named in the lawsuit for a reason, and like I said on yesterday's show, it was her particular style. And of course, there is some dark irony here that Colleen Hoover wrote this book about abuse, but seemed unable to pick up that, my friends, is exactly why Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired him, because he has proven that he is willing to lie without flinching.
Candace Owens has been vocal about her stance on the ongoing Blake Lively and Justin lawsuit, and she's been particularly critical of Blake. While many would expect Owens to side with Justin, it seems her criticism goes beyond simply picking a side. Owens has made it clear that her issues with Blake stem from what she perceives as a pattern of lies and manipulations on Blake's part, particularly in her accusations against Justin. According to Owens, Blake's claims have consistently been debunked, and every time she speaks out, new evidence seems to contradict her. One of the points Owens has highlighted is how quickly Taylor Swift distanced herself from Blake during the drama. Owens drew a parallel between Taylor's swift shift in allegiance and the way Blake's actions appeared to mirror certain manipulative behaviors that Taylor herself has been known to deal with in her own controversies. Owens believes this dynamic is telling and suggests that there's more to Blake's behavior than
We're starting to form that Taylor Swift may have been involved somewhat in the background in what happened to Justin Baldoni. I mean, she was named in the lawsuit for a reason, and like I said in yesterday's show, it was her particular style. Easter eggs, she was hanging out with them at that time. The New York Times article, a lot of what happened just seemed to have a flavor of Tay. Well, today, her team, and respect to them for the speed at which her marketing team moves, dropped an entire article in the press announcing that her and Blake are taking a break. They're no longer friends because, it's shocking, Taylor Swift feels used. She always feels used. And she wants nothing to do with the Justin Baldoni situation.
Owens didn't hold back when she criticized Taylor Swift in the context of the Blake Lively and Justin lawsuit. Owens pointed out that while Taylor's strong marketing team worked quickly to distance her from the drama, she couldn't escape responsibility entirely. According to Owens, Taylor often plays the victim in situations, and this particular case is no different. She argued that Blake only used Taylor as an intimidation tactic because Taylor allowed her to do so. In Owens's view, Taylor's actions, or lack thereof, gave Blake the leverage to manipulate the situation, and by not stepping in sooner, Taylor played a role in letting Blake use her influence in the drama. Owens' take seems to suggest that Taylor's tendency to avoid confrontation allowed Blake to take advantage of her status, reinforcing the idea that the pop star couldn't entirely absolve herself from the mess.
What do you mean you showed up and the meeting was still going on? What does that mean? What is that? I showed up and the meeting was still going on. So what are you being victimized by? If I show up at my friend's house and there's a meeting going on and I didn't know it was still going to go on, I don't need to insert myself in that meeting. Justin Baldoni in his lawsuit stipulates that Taylor Swift pressured him, and she's not denying that in this article. She's not saying I didn't speak to him, I said nothing, which I would be like, oh, you just used me as an intimidation tactic in your phone, I had nothing to do with it. She is saying that she then went and heaped praise on Blake Lively's version of the opening scene. That's what his lawsuit states, when they were talking about that rooftop scene. Okay? So she inserted herself in that. So unless Blake gave her the nudge and said, can you go in there, in which case Taylor Swift is still responsible for having peer pressured him, then there's no deniability here. She can't say, I had nothing, I don't know how I got involved in this. You got involved in it because you peer pressured him to make a change that he didn't want to make to his movie.
Owens has also delved into the involvement of Colleen Hoover, suggesting that the author might have unknowingly become a part of a larger, systematic effort by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to manipulate and isolate Justin Baldoni from his own movie. Owens implies that Hoover's role in this situation was more than just incidental, and that Blake and Ryan's tactics may have used figures like Hoover to further their agenda. While Owens doesn't claim that Hoover was intentionally part of the scheme, she suggests that the author, perhaps unwittingly, became entangled in the web of manipulation orchestrated by Blake and Ryan to push Justin out of the project. This narrative adds another layer to Owens's ongoing critique of how Blake and Ryan have handled the situation, painting a picture of a coordinated effort to marginalize Justin.
That Colleen Hoover was similarly love-bombed by the couple. I think that's what they do. I think Brandon Sklenar, Colleen, Channing Tatum, Isabel Ferrer, everyone was love-bombed. They isolate the person they want to destroy. In this case, it was Justin Baldoni. And then they are the exact opposite, overwhelmingly amazing and kind and offering all kinds of A-list goodies to the people that are around the person that they're trying to target. Oh, Liz Plank, oh, why don't you be a part of this random documentary? Oh, what is it that you want? We are just such good people. Even all the way at the top, we're good people. We want to help you. And of course, there is some dark irony here that Colleen Hoover wrote this book about abuse, but seemed unable to pick up the abuse that was happening right under her nose. So she unwittingly, hopefully I should say unwittingly, played along in this. She allowed Justin and his family to be put in that basement and seemed open to the prospect, as we showed in that old interview with her and Blake, of her getting her movie rights.
Blake and Ryan have a tendency to love bomb those around their targets, using their charm and generosity to make themselves appear like exceptional people. The issue, however, is that their wealth and influence make it incredibly easy for them to do so, giving them the power to manipulate perceptions and control situations in their...
Just to basically recap here, when Blake filed her CRD complaint on December 20th, Colleen Hoover made her support of Blake Lively clear to the public. She stopped short of throwing Justin Baldoni under the bus, but her statement was definitively loud and clear, especially given the fact that she attended all of the promos and the screenings with Blake and Brandon leading up to the film's release. And it felt very much, if you were watching everything, like basically they established the cool kids table, so to speak. Justin was nowhere. They wanted him to feel alone, and he was not allowed to sit with the cool kids. Okay, so Colleen posted this in response to that filing. She wrote, "Blake Lively, you have been nothing but honest, kind, supportive, and patient since the day we met. Thank you for being exactly the human that you are. Never change, never will."
Latest issue in Team Blake's case arose when they requested an attorney's eyes only protective order. The attorney argued that granting such an order would essentially allow the attorney to act as...
I'm going to show you what they said. They said, given how actively the Lively parties have publicized and litigated Ms. Lively's claims in the media, I'm surprised to now learn how vehemently she wants to prevent the public from accessing material and relevant evidence. The Lively parties provided the New York Times with Ms. Lively's otherwise confidential administrative complaints filed with the California Civil Rights Department and thousands of pages of original documents, including text messages and emails. So that's kind of like a pretty strong argument. They're saying, we're just like to remind the public that it was clearly her team who leaked private text messages and leaked emails without any due process at all to the New York Times. So why are they coming at us pretending that, like, oh, such a thing could potentially ruin careers, when it seems like that's exactly what you were doing when you released these messages that only you have? I also find it interesting that they're trying to pretend that it's a case, that they're essentially trying to protect people who may have been victimized by sexual harassment, when it was actually Blake Lively in that initial filing that said everything but the name, right? Like when she was trying to imply, like, wink, wink, I'm not going to name Lily Bloom. She was like pulling the Kanye, I'm not going to say who it was. And then she just says it. She's like, I don't want to name anybody else in the suit. But if you actually go back and review her initial filing from December 31st or December 20th, also her CRD complaint, she lets us know that it is Isabella Ferrer. It's almost laughable.
Candace also brought up how Blake had already all but named other castmates on the film to make it seem as though there were other victims who were supporting her.
A quote-unquote another female cast member that's friends with Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni. Liz Blank. She's basically saying everything. She's like, it's schmish schmank. It's schmish schmella schleller. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it rhymes with schmish schmella schmerer and Liz Blank. That's all I'm saying. So it's ridiculous for her to pretend that she was trying to protect these women. She was desperately trying to signal to the public by dropping not even Easter eggs, just pointed blanket statements like that. So it's a crap argument. The point of this filing is supposed to be for Taylor